Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. Hope you were well. Whale watching. I hope you liked that thumbnail because I had a lot of fun putting it together, but that's exactly what we saw today in the market. The whales are buying. They're using the opportunity that we see right now with retail investors selling off, getting concerned about a 2 or 3% drop in Micron, worrying that this stock is going to take a slide, and they are selling, and the big investors, the big whales, are using this opportunity to buy the dip and buy up that volume that's in the market. We're going to talk about the signals that we saw today. I'm going to show you an article of another big whale that announced a new position in Micron. We're also going to talk about the 41% dark pool volume and why that tells us something very interesting what the big banks are doing. And then finally, the number 412 is what most analysts are looking for. So we're going to talk about why 412 it is an important number for us to keep our eye on with Micron, because if we can break through that number, most analysts are expecting we'll see a big bounce this week or a breakout this week. Before we do all of that, though, we'll take a look at the sector. How did the market perform today? How did the tech sector perform today overall? Who were the winners? Who were the losers? All of that great stuff. But make sure you hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. I also want to let you know that I put a second video out earlier today. It was an intraday report on Micron. It's the first time I've ever done it. Let me know what you think about it. If you like that type of video, do you want to know a report midday about what's happening with your favorite stock? It didn't get a lot of views. I'm thinking most people either didn't see it or were at work, but I want to know your feedback. Is it something that you would like, or should I just stick to a one good video in the evening like we're doing right now? But we're going to jump in and talk all those things. But first, I want to start off with how the tech sector performed overall. So let's jump over and take a look at that right now, guys. You can see on your screen here, we're looking at Yahoo Finance, as I mentioned, free tool, really great to use. I like it, as I mentioned, for just seeing macro trends overall and just diving in. You can see on your screen the S&P 500 down below finished just a 0.1. Actually, most indexes were just barely up today. The Dow Jones Industrial Average was up 0.07. The NASDAQ was up 0.14, S&P 0.10. But the technology sector outperformed the indexes. It was at a 0.35. You can see in the day. You can just see how it's performed in the line graph on the chart. But let's dive down and look at the individual sectors. Kind of leading the way were the consumer electronics overall. The semiconductors had a decent day, about almost a full 1% growth, a 0.82 on the day. And we'll jump in and take a look at what that was. Obviously, NVIDIA, biggest market cap in that sector. This is the biggest sector in tech overall at almost a 36.5% weight. So NVIDIA was up over 1% today. Big news for NVIDIA today was the partnership they announced with Meta. They're going to supply Meta for the next few years with the chips that they'll need for their data centers and all the AI build out. So that's a great announcement for NVIDIA. We know NVIDIA has their earnings call next week on the 25th. That also could be a great bullish sentiment for us, for the memory companies and for the sector overall. So we'll keep our eye out. Put that on your calendar. It's something you'll definitely want to lean into, listen, take a look at some of the earnings that come out and the revenues that come out of that call, because it will have an impact across the entire sector. And then Broadcom had a nice day, up to over 2%. And we see that Micron was down by 3% today. Still great return on the year. I'm going to dive in and talk about the signals that we see with Micron specifically as soon as we're done with this sector wrap up. If I jump over to the software infrastructure, you can see Microsoft continuing to have a tough go. Down 1% of the day, but almost 18% on the year. They have lost, I think, over $600 billion in market cap at this point right now. You can see their market cap is down to $2.9 trillion. I think they were closer to 3.4 or 3.5 trillion at the beginning of the year. So it has been a tough 2026 since their earnings call, and a tough year for Microsoft. I still think it has a great long-term value, but it's been a tough start. Oracle down by almost 4% in the year. Palantir up over 1%. We see that the software are continuing to get hit. So Salesforce, Adobe, Snowflake, all kind of down on the day. You can see kind of rough year-to-date returns for those companies as well. It's the fears around Anthropic and the other AI tools and the impact they will have on these software companies long-term. And then finally, I just want to jump over to computer hardware here. You can see this has 3 of the 4 of our favorite memory companies on the board. And see, two were down today. So Seagate as well as SanDisk down. Big drop for SanDisk. You probably have saw the news today. It also affects Western Digital, but Western Digital announced over a $3 billion secondary offering of SanDisk shares today. It equates to about 7.5 million shares that they're going to put on the secondary market. And that available supply put significant pressure on SanDisk. You could see that the stock dropped by almost 6% today. SanDisk doesn't benefit financially at all from those selling of those shares, but it is, and how they're entering the market, but it has put pressure on the company. We often see where secondary offerings like this will trigger selling by large holders. Even high growth names like SanDisk that we've seen for the last year or so. We're coming up on that 1 year anniversary. I think it might be next week as well when SanDisk split from Western. 1 year those companies have been apart, and what great returns both of them have had. But even with high growth companies like SanDisk, like short-term volatility can definitely happen around supply events like we saw with Western, or what Western did. Western, on the other hand, you could see was up almost a share point. It's related to their divesting their SanDisk stake. So it was viewed as a positive momentum for Western Digital overall. I think the ongoing investors are pricing this as more of a structural balance sheet move for Western. And it isn't a signal of declining demand for them at all. Western's core HDD business and data center business is still intact. It's just they had a full separation now, and it frees up, it reduces exposure and frees capital and strengthens Western Digital's balance sheet overall. So really good move for them across the board. I wanted to just dive over and let's type it in here, and we'll do it real time. Take a look to see how Micron is doing. Oh, look at that. So good news, right? We saw the chart's not loading, so apologize for that. Oh, there it goes. But we finished the day down, we'll call 3%, $12. But in the after hours overnight right now, we're picking up. We're up to 400. So it's nice to see some of those after hours moves and some bullish sentiment coming back into the stock. One of the reasons there, I think I'm going to jump over to this article here, is the latest 13F filing. So David Tepper, his hedge fund down in Miami Beach, they filed their 13 on their positions that they had in the fourth quarter of last year. And obviously, this is another big whale movement. It's why I put the whale on the thumbnail, because we're seeing whether it's BlackRock, whether it's Renaissance, Vanguard, and now it's Alapalooza, they are picking up and growing their stakes in Micron. So you can see on the screen, they added an additional 1 million shares, bringing the total to 1.5 million shares. This adjustment represents a 200% increase in the share count for Micron. And it's an increase, it's a over 4% impact on their current portfolio, with the total value of almost 430 million. So guys, these are the big moves that we're seeing in the market right now. And what I wanted to jump back and talk about with Micron as we finish up the video overall. So I talked about it earlier at the big thing, the things that we are seeing. The stock closed today, as you know, at just under 400, so $398.78. It was down by 3%. And on the surface, we may look at that and say, Micron had a bad day. It's down. In fact, I saw a lot of comments. Micron down today. What's going on? But when you look at the order flow, and that's what I want to talk about, you see a total handoff. And what I mean by that is we look at the ratio, the order flow of retail investors to institutional investors. And small scale retail investors like me and like many of you that are listening today, they had a sell ratio of 0.76. They were panicking. They were selling more than they were buying. But the large scale institutional investors, their ratio stayed above 1 all day long. This means that for every retail share that was dumped in the market, a big whale was there to catch it. They are essentially using the volatility we see with Micron now to build positions at a discounted rate. This is a highly bullish signal for the stock. It tells us that the smart money views the current price as a discount. They aren't panic selling after the announcement of the $200 billion CapEx that we saw in Wall Street Journal. And I saw a lot of comments about like this is going to hurt their earnings. This is too much of an investment. Well, the institutional investors are not panicking at that at all. They are leveraging the retail investors' fears to build larger positions with this company. Today's price action, what we saw across the market was reality was a masterclass in institutional manipulation, we'll call it. While the public ticker showed a 3% drop, the private exchanges or the dark pools told a very different story today. There was over 41% of all short selling today happened in the off exchange. And this is often used by investors to press the price down. I want you guys to hear this, that it was used they're using this manipulation to press the price down of the stock without creating public panic, allowing them to fill their own buy orders at lower prices like the ones we saw today at $3.95. There was estimated to be a net institutional flow of over $112 million into the stock today. While retail was a net seller, large block trades, and these are orders over 100,000, showed consistent accumulation throughout the afternoon for Micron. On top of that, we still see the put-call ratio is at a 1.09. So the options markets is usually almost perfectly balanced. But there was a massive spike in the June 2027 500 calls today for Micron. Think about that. What does the June 2027 signify? Massive spike in those calls today. This suggests that while traders are hedging for the short term, and we're looking at the day-to-day and hedging, the big money is betting on a massive breakout once the Boise, Idaho fab, once it hits its milestones next year. So with an off exchange short volume ratio over 41%, there is a significant amount of hidden short interest in the market. If Micron releases any further positive HBM4 news or updates that could have a positive impact on the stock, this could trigger a squeeze. The shorts could be forced to cover and potentially trigger a mini squeeze that we see gets pushed back up and above that resistance level of 420 that we've talked about on this channel. The other thing I want to cover today is how the stock fought hard to stay above that $400 level, the psychological floor, we'll call it, eventually closing just pennies below, as I mentioned earlier, at $399.78. In technical analysis, typically closing right at a major whole number like we saw today at $399.78 often precedes a springboard effect the following day. So we'll keep our eye on that. We got to keep our eye on if we can break through that 412 if we can. Some point this week, that's a great sign that we're going to have breakthrough. And I'm always looking to continue to break through that resistance level of 420. So in closing, guys, Micron finished at $399.78. And what the charts don't tell you, we see red, we panic, we think the stock is down. But what the charts are not showing you is while retail investors were selling off and moving on the stock at a ratio of 0.76, as I mentioned, the big boys, the whales, the institutional investors were quiet buyers at a ratio of 1.08. Plus, we saw over 41% of the volume move through the dark pools today. That's the big banks moving in silence. This is just the beginning, and the whales are clearly here to buy the dip and load up on the stock. We see it with all the big names, Renaissance, Vanguard, BlackRock, Alapalooza, now that are moving in on this stock because they're bullish and they believe in it long term. I hope you guys do as well. Let me know your comments below. I hope you enjoyed the video and hope you're having a great night. Talk to you soon.